a restaurant that sells equality. That's all it is. They serve equality, and some of y'all had some delicious equality. It was good. You had great service. And some of us need to speak to a manager.
If you're not listening to the Truf Brothers, then Truf is evil.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to
Truf Brothers TV. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. I'm Ray.
And I'm Devon.
We're the Truf Brothers. As you know, all comments are welcomed. Everybody opinions matter. We got a very special guest for you guys today. It's going to be a real good show. And we hope to really get some good discussion going on. In the meantime, everybody give us our weekly check-ins. Let us know you okay. Say hi. And what's going on, brother?
None, everything good, man. Missed out last week. What's going on, Jacqueline? Missed out last week, but glad I see that you honestly held it down, did your thing. So, but in the process, we were doing work off the camera to make sure this week's show was going to be very special, very informative. I think it's going to be probably one of the best shows we've done, at least this year. I do believe that.
Agreed. I told you guys last week that we were going to get somebody on, and we managed to secure that guest. And this is going to be a nice show that hopefully will bring a better understanding on what we talked about the last two shows.
Right. Last week, I know that you had, my bad, I'm sending out everybody who was saying they wanted this link for sure for this show. Last week, you did mention, you brought a lot of topics about when it came to transgender women in sports. And in the back, we did want to get someone on who could further explain or help us get a better understanding into that community and certain things about about transgender life that we may not know. So I think sometimes it's best to come from a person who actually lives that on a day in, day out basis, because we are honestly oblivious to a lot of things, because I think people were looking at it and saying that we were a little, I wouldn't say we were insensitive, but we were very heedless to what that lifestyle was. And I don't think we came off insensitive. I think we came off more just, you're only responsible for what you know. So this is supposed to be a show where we learning something today, and we have a very special guest with us today that will help us understand. I'm going to let her come in and introduce herself how she would like to, but her name is Chrisette.
Hello.
How you doing, Chrisette?
Hey, I'm good. How y'all doing tonight?
Great.
All right, how you doing? Welcome to
Truf
Truf Brothers
so
TV.
you don't have to worry about your audio. You sound absolutely perfect. You got it figured out.
Thank you. Yes.
So I gave, I didn't want to give you our normal intro that we do with guests. I wanted you to do it. Give an introduction yourself to let the listeners know and exactly, who you are and about yourself. So you can go ahead whenever you're ready.
Sure. My name is Chrisette Giselle. I'm 29 years old, and I'm from the suburbs out in the Joliet area. I'm not only an activist, I'm a future and up-and-coming musical therapist. I am also an independent music artist. I'm a singer, songwriter, violinist, violist, pianist, composer, producer, you name it. So I just stay busy. Like, I actually just finished 2 songs in the studio yesterday. So my album is about maybe 85, 90% done. So I just stay working.
Okay. And the reason we were saying that everybody we was getting a better understanding about because last week we had a conversation about transgender women in women's sports, and
Right.
we were getting a we said we wanted someone who can give us a better understanding with that.
Mm.
And the reason we said that was because we wanted people to understand your sexuality. I guess I don't know if that's the word to use, but we did
More so gender.
gender. There we go. I apologize, but that's
We
more or less why we wanted people to understand. Well, why would you have her on, and
yeah,
they
we
would
kind of
not
need you
know?
to say it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the topic of us in sports, right? Okay. So here's the thing. When you take, because when you're transitioning from one gender to the other, it's definitely just not a fad. A lot of people think it's a fad, but it's actually real. It's a real thing. It's something called gender dysphoria, where you feel like you are literally born in the wrong body. So your ways of correcting that is therapy, and not only therapy, medical transitioning, where you're basically taking hormones. Now, when you're a trans woman like myself, um, you take estrogen. You know, everyone has both testosterone and estrogen, but obviously, males have more testosterone and females have more estrogen. Now, it is rare in cases where some males have a little more estrogen than they normally do,
Mm-hmm.
and then female vice versa. So, when you're a for male taking hormones, you go through stages. I mean, you start to like, this may freak you out, but we do get a period. However, the only thing we don't do is bleed, but we do get the cramping and the mood swings once a month. Like mine will be done tomorrow. Like the beginning of November, I was a mess. I had major cramps on Monday and I was just irritable like all day. And then the next day I was just kind of stuck and my cramping was cool. But I've been on hormones for 3 years though. So I've learned to kind of manage it. But when you do that, not only do you get a cycle, because it's basically you're starting over in puberty from a woman's perspective, you change over time. Like your muscle mass. Not everybody knows this, but your muscle mass when you're a male taking estrogen, it decreases over time. Like it is not, you're not as strong as you used to be. And you start to fill out in different areas. Like when you take estrogen, all the fat that you consume goes to a different place. Instead of the stomach, it goes to the hips, buttocks, and thighs, thus creating a much more curvature shape. Now, I've always had a shape since I was a child, so I it just kind of it made it even more pronounced the older I've gotten.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Can
like,
I
I can't.
can I ask a
Yeah,
question?
sure.
Uh, so when did you start? When did you start making your transition into becoming a woman? Like, when did you
Oh,
start taking
okay.
the hormones and everything in order to become a
I
woman?
I started 3 years ago, August 5th. That's when I started. I have a wonderful doctor in Chicago. Her name
Okay.
is Indy Willis Jackson. She is fantastic, and she helped me really through this process.
Okay. I
Okay.
got. I have a series of questions.
Sure.
First off, disclaimer. We do this whenever we tackle any type of controversial topic that people are relatively split on. Truf
Mhm.
Brothers' position is if you like it, we love it. Do you be the best you can be? We hold no grudges. We would never stop you from doing something. We would never say, well, you're wrong for doing this. It's you, it's your body, it's your feelings. More power to you. Wish you all the best luck in the world on your album and everything else. With that out the
Thank you.
way, we're
Thank
trying to
you.
bring in some understanding, and we're going to ask you a series of questions from a perspective of people who don't get it. Because as
Sure.
as he said last week, we covered transgender sports, and some people felt we don't get it. All we can come at it is from the mindset that we have. Now, just because somebody ain't with something doesn't mean they're against you. And I think with the society today, that's part of the problem. Every group believes that if you're not for it, then you must hate it. That's not true. I'm ambivalent because it doesn't affect me right now. I believe that the medical technology is absolutely amazing. Again, if you wasn't on this, if you was on this show just talking about your album, no one would think nothing. You came on this show to talk about this, so we do have a series of people out there that I know don't get it. So my first question would be, you was talking about the body dysmorphia. Am I saying it right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's that body dysphoria.
Dysphoria. I'm sorry. Okay.
Hmm.
Um, how do you know? How do you know that you always felt you were in the wrong body, or how did you know you always felt female when you wasn't female? I don't know because I only can wake up and know that I'm a dude. I wake up and I guess I have dude thoughts. But if the roles was reversed and there was a woman who felt like I wake up and I feel like a dude, I'm like, how would you know? How would you know what a dude feels like?
It's honestly, I had these feelings when I was like 9 years old. Unlike, I just felt more connected to my femininity, and I've stuck with that my entire life. Looking at my mother, she's a wonderful inspiration to me, and she just always encouraged me to be myself for more than anything. And over time, like I can say this, in high school, I played like the gay role because I felt like that was much safer, but I was still intact with my feminine self. And it's just, it's like you can't really explain it. You just know that you're meant for something a little more different than what you're presented to at that time. Like from the age of 9 up until 19, I just thought, oh, just be a feminine gay guy. Okay, whatever. But then as time progressed, and I'm like, you know what? No, like I really need to stick with what I feel is right. And I felt like I was always meant to be a beautiful Black woman. And I wanted to take that and just go with it and see where it went. So it's like
Okay.
you can't really say, oh, it's like X, Y, and Z. It's not really a logical thing. It's more so an emotional connection.
And I wanted to go off something else you just said because I know we got a lot of questions that bro asked, but it was something you had said a few minutes ago that I want to check on, and then we can go back. You said that you kind of knew at about 9, and that your mom was was an advocate for you to be true to yourself. Did she, like, I don't want to say push you to become trans or anything like that, or did she just let it happen? And like, because you have, everybody has it. The reason I said this, everybody has a different opinion on it, which is like in some cases, like Dwayne Wade, whose son is supposed to be transitioning, and he is kind of like, I don't want to necessarily say pushing it, but he is supporting it to a certain degree. And then you have parents that are just like, okay, once you're an adult and can make that decision, then you can do it. So, what was your mom's take on it, and two, what is your take on it as well?
My mom's take on it, like I said, she encouraged me to do everything. And she always knew I was going to be something special. And to be honest with you, she's always wanted a daughter. But, she got 2 boys at the time. But then, growing up and going through my transition, like right now, she and I are still close. Like she's like my rock. She's my everything. And she's
Hmm.
happy that I'm happy. And it just makes her fulfilled. She has the daughter that she's always wanted. She just came at a different time in a different type of space. And you wanted to know about how I feel about the Dwayne Wade situation?
No,
Well,
how you
not
how you felt.
necessarily, not necessarily about Dwayne Wade, but more or less along the idea of parents or adults pushing the transitioning on minors,
Mm.
like a 9-year-old,
Well,
up until before you're able to make that decision yourself?
and here's the thing: it's not pushing, it's encouraging. Because here's the thing: if you try to stifle them on what they feel is right, you're gonna have more problems. You're gonna have way more problems. If they feel like they need to go on with this process, and you as a parent, you're telling them, no, you need to wait till you're 18, that's gonna cause a rift in your relationship. And thus they're gonna end up resenting you in the long run. And on top of that, they're gonna try to go to the black market to get hormones, knowing God knows where the stuff comes from. And then they're going to injure themselves because they're not properly guided. So as parents, because I used to do speaking engagements all the time before COVID at Lewis University, and I was talking to future teachers, and I'm like, you need to be there for these kids because they need you. If you're stifling them from wanting to do what they feel is right for them, that's a problem. Like, you need to correctly and safely guide them into the right direction. It's not forcing, it's encouragement.
But how do you always know what a child wants? I'm a
Wait, hey, bro.
be
Before
honest.
you ask that,
Go ahead.
Before you ask that question, I wanted to get to the one right here, and then we can go right to yours because I want to
Cool.
get the
Yep.
question that we got. Rhonda asked, "Did your father support your transition?"
My father didn't come into my life until literally 5 months ago. Like, he left when I was 2 months old because he was a gigolo, and I haven't seen him for almost basically 29 years until this past
Okay.
April. So he hasn't been in my life.
Okay. So it's just been you and your mom.
And my brother.
Okay, go ahead.
Hey,
bro.
LaCroix. And your brothers. I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, and your siblings.
Hey, LaCroix, how you doing?
Yeah, no, my question would be, as a child, you saying that I'm not necessarily sure, as a parent, I would necessarily be indulgent of that so readily. You would really have to convince me, not saying, oh no, you're crazy. You don't want to do that. But I would be like, how do you know? How would you be for sure? And if you really said you wanted that type of surgery, I would be like, well, when you grow up and if you still feel that way, I will support you when you're grown up. But that's a decision an adult should make. And I don't believe I should assign that type of surgery or that type of transition onto a child, because the child could change their mind. The child could develop and feel differently.
Okay. Well, if we're talking about because the transition and the surgery are two different things. Because you can transition without getting surgery.
Okay.
Let's just put that out there. So the surgery, no, that needs to be waited, and that needs to hold off for a while. That I do agree with. Now the transition, no. If the child feels like they're ready, then they should. But when it's a child, you need to take different steps to that. That's when you involve guidance counselors. That's when you involve psychiatrists. So they make sure. Like, when you're a child, like under the age of basically 18, you need to have that corrective guidance. When you're an adult, you can pretty much do that. And when it comes to the SRS surgery, which is sexual reassignment surgery, and you're under the age of 15, like I said, that needs to have corrective guidance, because once you get that surgery, you can't go back.
Is there an age limit or an age where they can actually start doing the surgery? Like, can nobody come in at 9 years old? And so there's no age limit to that?
I did a few researches, and there is a limit, because what happens is, like, because this is what I do know, because I used to watch this documentary with a girl called Chaz. It's better to wait to do the surgery. Like, wait until you're a little older, because if you start young, what's happening is you're kind of messing with the puberty balance, and everything doesn't grow in correctly. It's like a weird way of explaining it, but it's best to start like the gender reassignment surgery when you're like 25 or older.
That makes sense, because you're still growing, you're still developing into your your body. So that's you could mess around and mess up the proportions if you don't know what you're actually, I don't want to say turning into, but I mean growing into as an adult. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's why I said the surgery, I need to wait until you're in your 20s. But when it comes to like the transition, that you can start at any age. You just got to have corrective guidance.
Now, is the transitioning part of the taking the hormones and everything like that? Like and everything that you were saying that you started taking 3 years ago?
Like
Okay.
when I was 19 in college, I started my process like just with clothing and how to present oneself and to ask questions and how to do makeup, how to do hair, blah, blah, blah. And that was just over time. And because I was still unsure if I'm like, well, how am I going to do this? Where am I going to get hormones from? And then I took the bullet and talked to my other trans friends. And they're like, girl, you need to sign up with Howard Brown and get yourself a really good specialist. And that's what I did. About 3 years ago in June, around my birthday, I made an appointment and I drove up to 55th and Hyde Park and I started my journey then.
Okay.
Do you feel any pressure from or any type of weirdness from the mainstream society at large, or is it, hey, when you step out on the street, it's like any other day and everything is cool?
Oh, no, I'm good. Like when I go out, I'm regular. Like I don't get harassed per se. I've gotten harassed online before, and I've probably gotten a few things. And when I mean a few, like I would say about 5-6%. But other than that, I go out and I enjoy myself just like any other girl.
Okay,
And
good. Go ahead, bro. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to ask a question about harassment. And I've known a few people who have dated someone and found out that they were trans later, and it didn't go well. So, and has there been any instances where something like that has happened to you, or where somebody didn't know and then found out later, or?
See, I'm smart enough to tell them at the first meeting. Like
So you believe telling them out the gate?
Well, you have to. Now, I will say this though. When I am out, at a club with some friends, and there's a guy that comes up to me and saying, doing his usual, hey, sexy, thick, whatever. And I'm like, well, thank you. We do exchange numbers because one, I'm not going to tell you in front of a whole group of people and yell it out loud, and then there's a whole issue.
That's fair enough.
I will wait. Like, oh, you can take my number down and enjoying the night with my friends, and we'll go leave, and then I'll tell him when I'm not near him at all, and then delete. And then either it's up to his decision whether he wants to continue talking to me or he wants to keep it pushing. That's usually how it works for me. It's a safer bet.
So in general, it is a social dynamic or unwritten rule that you might want to tell somebody before you go in too deep.
Well, yeah, you have to. That's to protect yourself.
I can, and Tony says that's character, that's a girl, so she totally agrees with you. And I only asked that question because the stories I did hear about those situations, those instances when they did happen, I would always say, well, if they would have told them, then that would let it be their choice. And I always was like, well, now, even if you tell them, I don't think it gives the dude the right, because I think more or less his ego is bruised.
No, and exactly. And that's right. That's another thing.
No, go ahead.
Like,
I'm sorry.
I was going to say, like, do not just, okay, if the situation, if you're feeling a girl and you're about to do the nasty, and then all of a sudden something is obviously different, what gives you the jurisdiction and the right to kill? Because that's what's been happening to a lot of my trans sisters out there in the world. They're dying because, one, they're not telling these men, especially these men that they know they're getting involved with. Like they're what I call hood boogers. That's exactly what they are. Like they're nothing but trouble. And you do, yes, they're hood boogers. That's exactly what they are. And you get involved with them, and they're behind the closet. And then when you tell him, you're putting your life in danger. And then now, great, we've lost over 350 trans women in the past 2 years. So there's not many of us left. But then the men need to realize, if you feel uncomfortable, walk the Can I curse?
No, yes, you can. This is True
Yeah,
Brothers.
Walk,
say
okay.
what you feel.
Thank you.
Let it
Walk
out.
the fuck away.
Fair
Walk
enough.
the fuck away. If you feel that's not your thing, get the fuck out. Like that's all you gotta do. So they're wrong on both parts.
I agree, and I mean, looking at you on the show when when we met on Facebook earlier this week, I looked at your pictures, and I'm be honest, I wouldn't have known. I wouldn't know. You would have to say something, and not something we was covering last week. That the procedure and the technology is advanced to the point you can't tell. You can't tell. So it is a dude would, hey, what's going on? And you should say, hey, you know what? You might not want to step into this world. And then the dude's got to be strong. Just walk away. What are you getting upset for? Just butt heads and call it even. That's more than fair.
Well, I will say this when you say like advanced medical technology, in my case, it's just good old genetics. My mom is gorgeous. Yes, my mom is gorgeous.
That could be. I'm not saying nothing against that. All I'm saying is I remember when Maury used to have shows in the 90s.
Oh God,
and have them on say, could you tell? And I remember I used to sit there and pick them out, but that started going away.
Maury, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. I thought I said Maury. Yeah, I mean that used to be a stick he used to do. And see, could you put some of them in with some other women and say, could you tell? And and no, like I think the first time I didn't know who Sydney Starr was until I think who was the mess with Chingy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then when I wouldn't have been able to tell. That ain't no slight upon me saying that. Yeah, you need to know, and I think it is an obligation on both sides to be bigger. You should say something, and a dude should say, "Hey, if you down, you down. If you not, you not."
Exactly.
But I want to ask you this, since we're getting into social norms.
Sure.
When you're out in public,
mm-hmm.
and you're going into the restroom, or you're doing stuff that women do, and you're going into the restroom, you do follow suit and you do what everybody else does, correct? In the way that they do it.
Following suit as in going to the corrective restroom?
No, not because we know what restroom you're going into.
Okay.
That's not the question. I gave an example last week, and this was way back in the 90s. I used to work at this automotive plant, and there was a woman there that was working at the plant. She turned out to be transgender, but nobody knew it. And the only way someone found out is she went into the bathroom. She goes into the stall, don't close the stall, and she does what she does standing up. Another worker comes in there to use the bathroom and like, whoa, what the hell? And then it was a big thing. But if you never would have done that, none of that would have, no one would have ever known nothing.
She knew better. Why would you stand up in a woman's bathroom?
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Is some people in the community on an agenda to push this and break a norm to where it shouldn't matter what I do the way I do it? I asked you that because earlier this year, there was a Korean spa in California, and the spa is the women go off and do their hot tub and the steam room and the massages and all of that with their daughters and all of that. But the men are off on the other side. A transgender person was in the woman's side, but they came through dangling all out in the open, and it upset the patrons. And the patrons was upset and said something, and they end up putting the person out. But then the activists came out and started protesting the place, and I seen them bullying women patrons that was trying to go into the place. So was that someone just trying to push a point and start a controversy, or is some people just like, yeah, well, I want to be the way I am, but I want to do it the way I want to do it? When I don't believe anybody can do anything the way they want to do it. We all have social norms or expectations when you're out in public. You just can't do what you want to do the way you want to do it when you're out in public dealing with the mingling with the society at large. Whether you're straight, male, whether you're straight, gay, whatever, we all know what we do when we're mixing in a colony or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right. Mm-hmm. So the transgender woman came out dangling. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
That's one, public indecency, and two, she should have been kicked out. Why? Why would you come out and first of all, it's unladylike, first and foremost. And like if you're a woman of a certain type, that's what I like to call myself. A woman of a certain type.
Yeah, then we'll use that too. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, but I'm a woman of a certain type. Why would you come out with the part that you dislike the most and you have it just free thrown to the world? Nobody wants to see that shit. And then you wonder why you get kicked out. I would have kicked her out too, because it's like you can't do that. You can be yourself, but cover your shit up. Just like it's just not appropriate for you to be walking around and you think that's okay. It's public indecency. Nobody wants to see that shit.
Agreed. And that was basically what I was looking for a woman or a man of a certain type. You still have to follow suit, so to say. When guys go into a guy's restroom, there's certain things that guys do, and there's certain things that guys don't do, because you're following suits. There's whatever bathroom rules. You know what I'm saying? It's unwritten bathroom rules. We all know the etiquette. We all know how to follow suit. And
I think the problem.
Don't the trend in that case.
I think the problem that went along with what you just said, bro, because now that I think about it, it wouldn't necessarily matter. I mean, it shouldn't have necessarily mattered who or what gender came out, because if a woman came out totally frontal nude, she should be kicked out as well, because that's so. I think the more or less people in that community got upset because they didn't look at it as public indecency. They looked at you just kicked a trans person out, and that's why more people were upset, because and I think it hurts that community and their cause and what they're actually about, because they think that people tend to think that they are always just looking for a reason to be mad, when like a person like yourself who looks at that and say, no, that shit was wrong, she should have got kicked out. And I'm glad that you said it, because it gives whoever listening just that idea of like, no, they all don't think that way. Like, we all aren't just saying, hey, we're a certain way and we think everything that we do goes. And I'm glad that you said it, because a lot of people would not have taken it well if we said it, because it comes off as hate.
Right. No, it's public indecency on both ends. Even if it was a biological cisgendered woman coming out and her lips are just swinging all over the place, it's like nobody wants to see that. You got to go too.
Agree.
Right.
And yeah, like I said, I don't know, because I've never been to a spa, and I don't know what goes on in the woman part of the spa, but I do know they were saying that it was a bonding time, because there was mothers and daughters there. Some of them brought their kids there. They were all enjoying the spa day or whatever. So it was a thing, and you don't come in there and do that. Do we got anybody else with some questions out there? I see the comments growing in there. Is there any that
I want to see some questions? I want to see some comments.
There you go. All right, true family.
I think more or less, you know what? I think a lot of people
might get them going.
I think a lot of people might be afraid to come out. So look, just so everybody knows, she has said, please come with y'all questions, and she's not afraid to answer them, right?
As long as you're respectful, it's going to get up here.
From what I've picked up in this little bit of time that we've been here talking, and over the week and a half or whatever that we've been talking, I think that she's shown nothing but, and man, I'll get to that later. But Question says the place you all are talking about, everybody is naked, nude is required there.
Oh, if that's
Oh, the
certain place.
Asian spa, the Korean spa, that could be. I wouldn't
Okay.
I wouldn't know. But
Because I know most places don't allow nude.
yeah, and I know it was a Korean spa. It could be a Korean thing. I do not know, because I just know that there were there were some women there and some parents there that was upset because they wasn't expecting to see the male appendage at their huddle. That's how I see it.
Right.
So I would believe, even if that was the case, don't shock anybody. Wrap
Right.
the towel around you and still do your thing.
And I'll say this, if that's the case, and if that place does allow nudity, and a lousy trans woman decided to just come out and swing all gods to glory, then yes, your ass should have gotten kicked out. Because one, you
And
knew. This
wouldn't
is the thing.
wouldn't
What? Yeah.
no, I was gonna say, wouldn't that be, because to me, if I was trans and I did that, knowing that the place seeks attention, I mean, knowing that that's that place, it wouldn't it seem like I'm looking for attention in some way, because I know what is going to be perceived when I walk out
Right.
that
You know
door,
you're
and
overturning the apple cart.
Well,
right,
I'll say
like
this.
it almost seems like you're doing. I don't want to say you're doing too much, but it kind of seems like you'd be doing too much.
Well, I'll say this. There's a difference between doing too much and just being lousy. Like that moment was just lousiness and just complete it was not ladylike at all by any means. But this is a spa for the women to bring their kids with, and it nudity is allowed, but then you're a trans woman and you are pre-operation. You know it's gonna cause a scene. So
Right,
in your
right,
in what you're saying, I can actually say that is just trying to find a moment to shine, just to say, "Oh, I was
right,
kicked out." No, bitch, you shouldn't
right.
have never been
That's
in
what I
there in
was
the first
thinking.
place. It's like this is what, and this is what I was going to say earlier. I protect myself at all costs. I know where to go and just what not to do, because I'm not just
Sure,
going to put myself in that predicament. I refuse.
sure.
I just won't do it. Even no matter if I fit in or what, because I was talking to a friend of mine, and she and I were having a discussion because we work together, and I've gotten a lot of passes at my job because of how I look. And there is a thing in my community called passability, and nobody wants to talk about it. Like the moment we mention passability, it's like, oh my God, like you just think just because you're this and that, you can get any worded anything handed to you. And it's like, no, that's not the case. However, I would be totally treated differently if I did not look the way that I did. And those are facts. Those are complete
I can
facts.
agree with that.
That's
I
the
can
way
see.
that's
I
the
can
way the
see that.
I would have a
society works.
completely different
Yeah.
life. If I looked different, if I sounded different, like, okay, just imagine if I look the way that I do, but I sound like Devon. That's not
Right,
that's a little weird.
right.
It's common, but
Mhm.
it is what it is. But passability does have its benefits. Now, granted, I still get treated like shit like any other girl by
Sure,
most niggas out there. Stupid. However,
sure.
I still in my community get a little bit of a leverage simply because I present myself as ladylike. The voice is there, and it's not even just physical aesthetic; it's also internal beauty, because there's a difference between natural femininity and when it's forced. When it's forced, you're gonna give yourself away more than anything, because uh, cisgender women don't have to do the extra. Now, the only time they do the extra is when like going out having a good time and just twerking on camera doing whatever. That's just normal. But if you're overly flamboyant and you're in your transition, you're gonna give yourself away. And I've seen it happen so many times. So
Right.
I am
Well,
thankful.
and
Yeah.
now I was just going to read the question. And Trina says, Do you think life is easier for you because you can pass for a woman without a problem? And that's kind of what you were
And she
answering
kind
right
of just
there.
all right. I thought she was kind of
Yeah.
addressing that as she was going along. I I do got a question for you though,
Sure. Yeah.
and this is for you. This is I'm not asking you to speak for anybody else, just you. Do you believe in gender roles?
Me personally,
Yes.
yeah. I'm not gonna lie.
I think when we were just talking about following suit, gender roles exist in society for a reason, and I think some of the ways that we're blurring the lines with some of this stuff opens the door to problems. And this isn't just a trans thing. I'm not saying that. I'm saying in general, like I know that I've seen a lot of butch type lesbians who are trying to look like dudes and they're trying to do what dudes do, but a dude know that not that they're trans, they're just butch like
Right.
lesbians.
Well,
And they're trying to pick fights and provoke dudes. And if
right.
you're raised right, there is a
Mhm.
built-in rule that a dude is not going to haul off and beat up a female, even if you got all the gear on and you're trying to do this and you done grew a little stubble under your chin. Don't mean nothing. So don't
Mm.
push that. But with the mixing of the way everything is going, some people want to push these rules out of the window, and I think that's a dangerous game. I think gender roles are there for a reason. I've been raised by old school dudes. I'm old myself, so I've been raised to treat a woman in a particular fashion, and it
Right.
shouldn't matter if you're trans or biological. It doesn't matter. If I seen you out there with a flat tire, I'm going to help you because I was raised to do that. Whether you can
I'll
handle it
say
or not, I would at least ask, do you need help?
I'll say with gender roles, I mean, like you said, there's lesbians that do want to portray as the male dominant, and that's fine. It's none of my business. So now that I really think about it, because I think for the longest time we always wanted gender roles. I say this: do what works for your person. If you want to be the male figure in your relationship, then go ahead. And if you want to be the more submissive feminine type in your relationship, then that's fine too. So I can't really say the gender roles
Well,
are, yeah, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say I was gonna let you finish that, but we had a long question that couldn't come up, but it was a really really good one, and
Mm,
I just wanted to ask it.
sure.
Rhonda said, "Do you feel like the LGBTQ community has become overly sensitive to criticism, whereas every other communities is far game for criticism? For example, if a heterosexual says they have straight pride, the LGBTQ claims they are being homophobic for having the same pride in themselves."
I don't think saying straight pride is being homophobic. However, when you say it, you're saying it to prove your point that almost like, oh, we were here first, so fall back in line. So honestly, it depends on how it's being used and what context it's being used. But
Mhm.
it's not homophobic. I like, okay, someone tried to tell me, well, I have straight pride. I'm like, okay, do you want a cookie? Do you want a prize? Do you want a trophy? Do you want something for that? That doesn't affect me. If that's how you feel, that's how you feel. But don't use it to try to marginalize a group that's already been marginalized for the longest time. That's what I don't like when it's being used to put down the actual suppressed group. If you're straight and you're proud of it, whoop de do. Okay, that's great. A round of applause for you. But keep it pushing. You don't have to do any extra stuff along with it to prove your point. You prove your point, okay, move on.
Sure, agreed. I think that's an
And
interesting way
Tony
that you
just
put
said
that. I'm
something
sorry.
that
Go
I
ahead, bro.
wanted to go back onto. No, I'm gonna let you say, but Tony said something I wanted to go back on that. Tony says it can be seen as a mock. It can be seen as mocking the LGBT community, used as a tit for tat. I'm going to use an example really quickly. It's going to be off top, but I'm going to use one. I look at that as saying Black Lives Matter to all lives matter. It's if like how you just use it as saying it can be, do you want a cookie or whatever the case may be, and it, like you said, it all depends on how it's being taken or how it's being perceived. Um, like we said earlier, you anybody who's gay, bi, trans, whatever, lesbian, whatever, if that's their thing and they have pride in it, by all means do your thing, and that should be your lifestyle because it's what makes you happy. And I always live by a motto: do whatever makes you happy, as long as it don't bother nobody, as long as it don't hurt nobody else. Do whatever makes you happy. Me, if I say I have straight pride, it has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with your lifestyle. It has nothing to do with how you go through your everyday uh, activities or whatever. It's just me saying I'm proud of who I am. Just like anyone in that community should be able to say their pride in being lesbian, gay, straight, whatever. So that was just me putting that out there, and I looked at that.
Sure.
I think in some cases, like Tony said, it can be used as a tit for tat. I just think like how you said it, like people will look at it and say, well, this is the right way, and I have straight pride, and that's how it should be. It should not be that. Okay,
Right. I
my
mean,
bad. Go ahead, bro.
I have straight friends that I've been friends with for 20 years, and we're still close to this day. So it's like, okay, you got straight pride. Wonderful.
You got a
Yeah,
bunch of questions too.
yeah. Real quick, I think it's. I want to put a little bit of a different spin on there before we go to CC's question. It can be used as a tit for tat, and I think some people can use it, like you say, all lives matter, the Black Lives Matter. But I think for some people, it is a reaction to the inundation that they feel coming from the LGBTQ community, where it seems like the pride parade, the pride month, the this and that, and they're feeling like they're being bombarded and overwhelmed. And for most straight people, again, being straight is just something on the list. It don't even register, so they can't orientate their brains to understand why it matters so much to you. So now they're saying, okay, well, you got all this gay pride. Well, we got straight pride too. And some people in the LGBTQ community, straight people will hear them talking, or they'll see some gay show or something, and they'll hear the term, well, breeders, and everybody has inside jokes and derogatory terms for each other. That's just the way. This world is built in a white supremacy.
It's called dark humor. Dark humor.
Yes, it's called dark humor. So they'll hear that, but then they'll say, "Well, wait a minute. If we're breeders, well, we can't say gay, we can't say fag, you can't say this." And every time someone says something, and not on an overt level, I would even say like what Dave Chappelle was, the parallels he was drawn to. I didn't see any hate in that. I just didn't. I just saw parallels to society that he was making, and the way that he got fervently attacked makes people have that reaction to say, well, no, I got straight pride, and there's nothing wrong with the way we live either. And I just think some people feel like that. Just get that out.
Oh, well, I'll tell you a little secret. It's not really a secret, more of a fact. I don't really participate in the pride parades as much anymore, simply because out of the LGBT, the T is the most ignored. Because I'm going to tell you two types of people that hate me the most, two groups of people. Now, it's not all, and this is just fact based off my own experience. A lot of Black women do not like me, and this is the fact. And gay Black men hate my guts.
I literally was going to say the same thing.
So I don't really, like, I love the pride parade. I mean, the trans people, we have our own colors, pink, blue, and white. I'm wearing pink, so there's that. But I don't participate in it because a lot of hateful shit has been headed my way from Black women and gay Black men. And I'm gonna tell you why it comes from Black women. And this may cause some type of shit, but I don't really care because this is how it's perceived. A lot of them are jealous. A lot of them are jealous. And I can speak this because it's happened to me personally. When I could be minding my damn business and I can post something on Facebook or Instagram about me and my journey, doing great. And here comes someone that I forgot I was friends with, and I realized why I don't talk to you anymore. Hateful rhetoric saying you can be, you can have all the surgeries you want and all the lip plumping and pumping. I'm like, but you'll never have a period. You'll never bleed. You'll never have kids. I'm like, okay, bitch. First and foremost, I know I can't have children. 2, I don't have any surgeries on my face. That is you. And third and foremost, just because I can't have kids doesn't make me less of a woman. Because there are women who are born genetically women that cannot have kids due to endometriosis.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't base that just off of just because I can't have kids that I'm less than you. So a lot of it is just jealousy and then a lot of like guys that come in my inbox and, do the whole flirting game. Somehow it gets back to them that they flirt with me. And then they say shit like, oh, she was born a man, right? I'm like, bitch, what does that concern you? What you mad for? What are you mad for? So that's what I say when it comes to certain Black women, because I didn't get this from a lot of Latina women or Caucasian women. It's more so my sisters. And it's just like they think that a lot of them think I'm trying to replace them. I can't replace you. I can't. I'm just here to exist because this is just who I am. So fucking deal with it. And then when it comes to Black gay men, they can be mean because they can say, well, bitch, they'll say, bitch, you can be clockable at the end of the day. I'm like, are you upset because you didn't have the courage to do what I did? That's where a lot of it comes from. Like, they'll hate me because they had no type of energy, no type of courage or type of push to do what I did. And these are facts. That's why a lot of us trans people don't really kind of be involved in Pride that much, because we're the marginalized people in that group.
Yeah.
That's really like hard to explain. I knew something was coming, but yeah, I gotta.
You know what?
Go ahead, Tony. Because
sitting there when you were talking about that, yeah, that infuriates me. Where Black women would be cruel and heinous to attack another Black, and I'm going to say a Black woman, whether they know about what your circumstances or situation is, whatever your life is, it's cruel. And I hate to be the one that says this, but I'm going to apologize for those Black sisters because of their ignorance and their intolerance and just pure hatred, because they forget that they've been hated on because they've got nappy hair, or because their ass is too big, or because they've got a stomach that's hanging out, or because they can't get a job because they can't speak as well and articulate as you do. So, sister, live your life. And the next time one of them hates on you, you think about what I'm telling you. That's their own insecurities, because they're so afraid that they're not doing the right things with the men that are in their life that you could possibly come in and sweep them off their feet. Don't you ever let anybody make you feel less than the woman that you are. Ever.
Thank you.
I was fuming as you were saying that. So I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt your show, but I just had to say that.
Okay. Thank you.
I would go ahead and say that with the sisters, welcome to the family. That's family thing. Women hate on women. Straight women hate on straight women, like she said. Dudes hate on women. Dudes hate on dudes. That's just, they find something that they don't like about you and they're going to focus on it, but that's just part of the human family behavior. Also, what you said about the gays, thank you for that, because you validate Dave Chappelle's point. One of his specials, he talked about all of the what he called the alphabet people in the car, and the discrepancies that he's noticed within that community in the car. And he said the T's have it the worst. So again, that's the man who's listening, but he got his own opinions. And that's the difference between hate and someone who's just giving commentary. Commentary ain't always meant to make you feel good. Good commentary is meant to make you think. I hope what we're doing on this show is meant to make people think, not just necessarily feel good.
Right.
No, for real. So that's why I said what I had to say.
I wanted to read these last few comments before we and everybody seems to agree with you and what Tony says, which is great. But I did want to read these last few comments before, we have to let you go. I'm not trying to take too much more of your time. But Cece has said, I heard you say in your transition. When would you consider your transition complete?
Well, that just depends on the person, really. That doesn't really depend on a timeline. That depends on the person. Some people want to get the surgery. Some people don't want to get the surgery. It all just really depends on their level of being complete. So I can't really say like, oh, when you complete. Well, that person can be completed already.
And the other thing that I wanted to say really quick was, I know that when you mentioned about gay men being hateful towards you, I find it to be funny, because to me, I would think that y'all would be closer because you're kind of in the same boat. If they
fishing for the same food, bro. They fishing for the same food. No. Just like a bunch of women in a club looking for dudes, it's the same thing.
But here's the reason, and this is just me trying to ask, and I'm sorry, Tony, I know we're going a little bit over, but to me, to make it make sense a little bit, I can understand a woman having some hate towards her. Not saying it's right, but I can my brain can understand the logic behind it. Why? My brain can't understand the logic behind a gay man having an issue with a trans woman. That's tell me
why you can understand a sister having a problem with her. Break those down.
Because a sister who was born that way, my logic, not me, but my logical brain, if I had to look at it, would say, okay, she's like, oh, this manufactured woman, this woman who wants to be what I actually am. But, and I'm not saying it's right, but I can at least say, whatever, I get it. But for the it's like, for you, a gay man having an issue with you is like, dude, I'm fighting the same battle you are.
Yes, and that's exactly it is the weird thing. But like I was telling you earlier, that has more to do with what they internally feel. They see, like, I had this guy tell me, like, I'm living my best life. Okay, I'm about to be 30 next year. I'm living a damn good life right now. And I feel it's just happy. And I've had a gay man tell me, bitch, you think you all that just because you're going through a transition. And I'm like, what is your issue, dear? What's your issue, beloved? What's wrong? And then I realized you don't get that deep. It's not that serious, but they do not have the courage to do what I'm doing when it comes to transitioning. Right. So they feel like it's too late for them. And so they project their hatefulness towards me, on me. So they're mad at me because they didn't go with the transition. They didn't have a supportive family or whatever it may be. They're mad at me because they did not make the decision.
Right. Can I ask you a question before I make this comment?
Sure.
Are you're attracted to males, correct?
Yep.
Okay. So with that being said, the way I see it is, and this is just the crudest way I can put it in a little bit of time. For the gay dude, he see it as another brand that he's competing for that customer base or dudes. I'm sorry, just basic biological dudes. I gotta compete with her for some dude, and she looked like that. And the straight woman is thinking the same thing. You said that people would jump in your timeline and say, "Girl, dude, you know that ain't no girl, right?" You say people jump in the time. That's because that someone's trying to holler at you, and they're all trying to block because they're all competing for the same consumer. And a gay dude see her as competition, just like a straight woman see her as competition. Straight women do it all the time with each other. Oh, she thinks she cool with all that weave in her hair and all of that, but that's all to make themselves look attractive to dudes. Dudes do it amongst themselves.
This happened actually. I'm gonna make this very brief. About 7 years ago, had a good friend. She invited me over. She had this one person she just allowed to stay in her home. He was fresh out of jail. He was real fine, tall, dark skin, whatever. And there was a guy there. He was gay. He liked him too, but the guy that was there that got out of jail gave me more attention. And then the guy that was denied said terrible things about me, that I would suck dick behind a freaking dumpster for money. I had AIDS. I'm walking around trying to give people sex. I'm like, are you for real? Are you that mad at me because this man didn't want you? For
Ain't
real?
that what straight women do? Ain't that what straight women do amongst each other?
Well,
they do.
We got a lot of comments we got to read really quickly because I know it's a lot of people that has made comments. So we're going to go through these comments really quickly. Manny says, for someone to say something that like that is more of a reflection of them than of you. Agree with that. That's probably back to what we said. People down others because they do not like themselves. That's absolutely true. We know that to be a fact. Diva says, what's going on, Diva? I applaud you for being who you are. Keep doing you. Got support there. Denise says, I agree with Tony Breelove. Thank you for such a great apology. She's agreeing with Tony for the apology on the behalf of women. When someone hates on me, I feel bad for them. They must be very unhappy. We also said that too. Cece says that's part of the game. Black women are sometimes particularly cruel when other women come into the scene. Period. I can understand that. It goes back to what brothers both said earlier. Renee says it is very hard to hear about the struggles you face in your personal life outside of social media. Do you face the same hate? Outside of social media, do you face the same? I think you answered that question about yeah.
No.
Not really. Okay.
No, not really.
Rhonda
They don't have
she is a beautiful woman inside and out. Thank you for clearing that.
You're welcome.
Thank you for clearing that up for us. So Rhonda agrees. Cece says some gay men are overly catty.
Facts.
I've seen that. Mandy says 950 million black guy jokes, and I didn't hear Dave complain once because he has a sense of humor. Absolutely.
Agreed.
Says most mature women are not jealous of other women, biological or trans.
Right. If they're strong in their circle, in their inner circle, then yeah. But again, that's a human thing. You're gonna see that whether you're trans, gay, straight, whatever. People hate. I mean, dude, you have some dude hate on you because of your basketball skills. You probably have some dudes wanting to just inexplicably want to fight you just because they think you got it going on. It's nothing that's part of the human behavior. It's just part. We all have a biological need to compete for in some cases the opposite sex, and in some cases the same sex. But it's whatever they're targeting, it's going to be competition. You're not going to tell me gay dudes don't hate on gay dudes. This whole thing of we all this one big united society is crap. You need that stuff. You need weaker people to be exposed so they can help become stronger people. It's just part of who it is. Sometimes it's their evolution. When you're young and immature, you might hate. You might grow up and be more secure in yourself and grow out of that. Just depends. But it's just part of who they are at the time.
Two things before we got to wrap this up. One, we got to definitely make sure we get you a shirt. You definitely got to get a shirt, and I'm gonna make sure that Trina gets you that shirt, like bro is wearing right there, because you're part of the family now.
Aw, thank
Secondly,
you.
And you got to come back.
secondly,
Oh, love
yeah,
to.
like yeah, definitely. And the last, we're gonna read the last comment or question for the, and she needs, yeah, yeah. Tony, you can have her own too. Tony can have your own. Like, yeah. Um,
Anytime.
uh, the last comment is: so is it safe to assume that by putting your business out there, you're exposing yourself to the hate?
Uh, no, that didn't make any sense.
Okay. Well, that being the case, because we were told we had to, I wish we had more time. Really, really,
We'll
really
have to do a
do.
part two
You are
because
a
we didn't even talk about my dating life.
that's and we. I really wanted. I know. I didn't know if bro wanted, but I definitely had a lot of questions because I kind of
Part
touched
look,
on it a little bit.
Devon, part two. Get it together.
We actually got an idea for you, and we'll kick it to you once we get off the air. We
Okay,
were
cool.
already thinking about a part two, but not in this aspect. And
Okay.
we'll present it, we'll pitch it to you after the show.
That
Because
works.
next week
Yeah.
we got some questions about what the hell, what y'all got against Will?
Well, who?
Why
Yeah.
y'all
What did
hating
Will
on
do?
Will?
Will
Wendy
Smith.
Williams. I
No,
don't watch
Will
it.
Smith.
Oh no.
Oh, Will Smith. I don't watch it.
What did Will do? Yeah.
Yeah, what did we
I
got
don't.
a show
So
called What Did Will Do? Since now all of a sudden the Mr. July, one of the box office heavy hitters, been that way for over 15 years, all of a sudden must suck in the sack. And we gonna put that out there and embarrass the man. So we gonna ask some questions and we want answers.
but and in the meantime, and you got people that's already ready to hear these stories that you got about your dating life, because I think the first show was to basically get the somatics out the way. Now that you part of the family, when you come back, or we get the poke at you now, like, all right, so tell us about Derek, and now it's gonna be one of them good ones. So
I have.
no,
Oh my God! Wait till I tell you. I have a whole book on my dating life. It's
Oh,
ridiculous.
good.
It's
That means
insane.
you can bring your sense of humor so we can go there.
yeah,
We can't trust
okay,
me. I have so much shit to tell y'all.
all right,
All
well,
right. So
sounds good
she'll,
to
she'll
us.
be
But
back, y'all,
again, you've
in
been
one form or another. Just stay tuned. We will see you
yeah,
guys
but you,
next week. You have been a wonderful guest. Thank you very much. And you are part of the family. You're getting one of these.
Thank
And
you.
when you get one, we're gonna need you to make a video, and we're gonna need you to
take
say
a video.
our famous words that if you're not watching the Truf Brothers,
The truth ain't in you.
live
Okay.
long and prosper, people.
All right. Works for me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye. Peace.